Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Captain, Community Information Director for Volusia County Government, and it is 2 p.m. Wednesday, November 9th. With us today, we have Emergency Management Director Jim Judge, Beach Safety Ocean Rescue Deputy Chief Tammy Melfers, and Sheriff Mike Chitwood. A hurricane warning and a storm surge warning has been issued for the coastal areas of Volusia County, and a tropical storm warning and a flood warning for the rest of Volusia County. The storm's shift slightly southward overnight has moved Volusia County out of the cone. However, this is in no way puts us out of harm's way. This storm is extremely large, and we are still going to receive a significant amount of rainfall and wind. Jim is going to talk with you more about the details of why we shouldn't just focus on the storm's cone. The impacts of the storm are already being felt, and the worst has yet to arrive. The storm's high tide this morning has exposed the true vulnerability of our coastline. One of our county's coastal bathroom structures has already succumbed to the ocean. Deputy Chief Tammy Melfers will speak more in depth regarding the coast in just a moment. As a reminder, the mandatory evacuation order for certain areas of Volusia County went into effect today at 10 a.m. this morning, November 9th. Those who have needed to evacuate should be evacuated by now. If not, people in these areas need to evacuate immediately. Please, don't take this lightly. The threat to your life and your family, it's very imminent, especially if you're on the coast. Shelter information is available at volusia.org/PIN, or you can call the Citizens Information Center at 866-345-0345. Individuals must complete their evacuation by 4 p.m. today, so you've only got a couple hours. This is not the time to wait around and see, what happens. By doing so, you're putting yourself at risk and your family's life at risk. At this time, I'll turn it over to our Emergency Management Director, Jim Judge. Jim?
Thank you very much, Kevin. The weather update, I really want to be honest with everyone in the fact that, now that the cone has, looks like the hurricane will make landfall around Vero Beach tonight at around midnight, but by no means are we out of harm's way. We still can anticipate strong tropical storm force winds throughout Volusia County, through midday tomorrow into tomorrow early evening. So we still have the rest of the day today, all night tonight, through the day tomorrow for those continuous tropical storm force winds. We are continue to be under a hurricane warning. However, the chances for hurricane force winds, even hurricane force gusts, have diminished quite a bit. But again, just because you see that cone, off to the south and then up to the north, that by no means puts us out of harm's way. So, with that, we still are experiencing 35 to 45 mile an hour sustained winds coming in off the ocean. We still have the potential for 4 to 6 inches of rain. We had 1 to 2 inches of rain yesterday. And again, the Halifax River, we have had reports of water coming up over docks and into backyards as we have the Halifax River increasing to 2 to 3 feet all along the intercoastal waterway. This is a very large storm. If you look at the size of the state of Florida, this thing is like over 400 miles wide as it comes in. We do have shelters that are open, and of course you can go to our website for that specific information. But we do have 4 shelters open. There's still plenty of capacity for anyone who still feels the need to evacuate to get to a safer location. We have Creekside Heritage for special needs, Hinson and University High School for general population. Of course, the fair is closed. But we continue to have those high tides. Again, tomorrow morning, we anticipate the high tide at 9:23 a.m., and that's about a foot higher in the morning than it is at high tide in the evening. So the good news is that it's moving at about 12 miles an hour. So once it does make landfall down around the Vero Beach area and then move to the west and then, of course, back to the north and even up into the Big Bend area, I guess the takeaway is that we're not out of the woods, folks. The beaches are incredibly rough, incredibly dangerous. So I know we're going to have Tammy Melfers come up and talk more about the beach conditions, but by no means let your guard down, because we may get periods of light rain and even less wind, but don't let that give you a sense that we're out of this, because we are no way is that the case. So lots more to come tonight, overnight, through the day tomorrow. Of course, we'll be spending the night in the Operations Center, and our Citizen Information Center lines are open if you have any questions that you'd like to call to talk to somebody directly. And with that, let me bring up Tammy Malfers, our chief with Ocean Rescue Beach Safety.
Thank you, Jim. As Kevin mentioned, hold on 1 minute, please. Okay. I'm going to pick up where Jim left off, and I'm going to tell you that the beach is not the place to be right now. It's not the time to go and take pictures or video, and 100 likes on social media is not worth dying for. The surf is extremely rough right now, and Mother Nature doesn't play nice, nor does she play fair. If the water catches you, you have a greater probability of dying than living. As we've already discussed, the structures across our entire coastline have been weakened as a result of Hurricane Ian. The impacts of this storm are already worsening their conditions and damaging those unharmed by Ian. Don't assume that because a pier, walkway, or structure show no signs of damage or are accessible that they are safe. I can promise you they are not. As Jim mentioned, just try to hunker down, ride out the storm in a coastal, if you try to ride out the storm in a coastal residency or hotel, it's risking your life. It's not smart or safe to try to go onto the beach. Sadly, our county experienced a beach fatality at the hands of Hurricane Ian. A woman was caught in the ocean and was not able to be saved. We don't want this to happen again. Like I said earlier, by going to the beach in these conditions, you have a greater chance of dying than living. At this time, Sheriff Mike Chitwood would like to speak.
Good afternoon. I can't stress enough what Tommy just said and what Jim had said. From Ormond by the Sea all the way down to Bethune Beach, there are dozens and dozens of structures who have suffered severe damage from Hurricane Ian that have not been repaired. That is the reason why a curfew is going into effect tonight at 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. We need you to stay off the streets as the storm surge comes in and the storm begins to make its way up toward us. Anything is possible. Ian has weakened the infrastructure so bad that we don't know what kind of building collapses may take place. As far as trying to hunker down on the beach side, again, I want to hammer home, now is your opportunity to leave. The curfew begins from 7 p. to 7 a. If your necessity is to get out and move to go to the store, or you're evacuating, you're going to work, that's great. But if you're going to go out and take selfies, as Tommy said, to get your 100 likes, that we're not going to tolerate that. The bridges will close when the wind speeds reach 39 miles an hour, so you won't be able to go in any direction, east or west. As long as the wind speeds don't reach 39 miles an hour, anybody can leave the beach side anytime. So if things start to get rough and you think, I got to get out of here, you will gladly be able to go eastbound. You will not, unless you're a resident, to get back to your property, will not be able to come over to the beach side starting 7 o'clock tonight. I want to reiterate that. Starting at 7 o'clock tonight, if you think you're going to go over and take selfies or you're going to go tour the beach side, you're not. You're going to be denied entry to the beach side. It's only going to be for emergency personnel. And lastly, I want to remind all of our nefarious characters out here in the county that we are under a state of emergency. So if you think tonight's a good night to break into the vape shop, or it's a great night to break into a gun shop or a jewelry store or to a drugstore and you get nailed, those penalties are enhanced. So for the owners of those establishments, I would hope that before you close today, you put everything away in a safe, because should power fail and the alarms fail, that's when these nefarious characters go to work. So with that, I will turn it back over to Kevin.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Tammy. As a reminder, we've just got a couple of announcements before we close. So as a reminder, the Volusia County Fair remains closed until further notice. Once the storm has passed, an announcement will be made regarding the fair's potential opening. As the sheriff indicated, bridges will close when it's 39 miles per hour sustained or greater. And a lot of people have questions after the storm passes. When are the bridges going to open? That's a very common question people have. Well, we can't just open them right back up. What happens is they get inspected by FDOT, the Florida Department of Transportation. When they inspect them and they deem that they're safe to open, that's when they will open. If you have questions about when a bridge will open, you can call our Citizens Information Center at 866-345-0345. You can also follow us on volusia.org/pin. Be mindful, too, that all social media channels will be providing that updated information, and that's the County of Volusia Facebook page, the County of Volusia Emergency Management page. All of those pages are available for additional information. So in closing, I just want to reiterate a little bit about what's all been said today. As Jim said, don't focus on the cone. He mentioned this storm is 400 miles wide, or diameter wide. And so we're going to get the brunt of it. We're going to get a lot of the outer bands. We're still going to get wind and rain, and so don't let your guard down. Please do not let your guard down. So again, to receive the most up-to-date information, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, volusia.org, or call the Citizens Information Center. Lastly, I'll just reiterate the mandatory evacuation areas, because it's been another common question for a lot of people. So it's anything east of the intercoastal, all manufactured and mobile homes east of I-95, low-lying areas and other areas prone to flooding, and all campsites and recreational vehicle parks. With that, we'll take any questions.
Daytona Beach News Journal. Wondered if you could talk specifically about the structures that have already collapsed or that you're seeing collapse now along the coast.
So speaking of the structures, the county is responsible for the structures on the unincorporated areas, and there's about a little over 20 of them that we're following in Wilbur by the Sea. The municipalities and our coastal cities are also monitoring those buildings that are in those. We've got those 5 coastal cities that we're very closely monitoring with them and with state partners. And those will have to be inspected after the event as well, too, by the municipalities, building inspectors and such. So we're closely following those, and again, that's the reason for the mandatory evacuation order.
So what about the areas, the low-lying areas in different parts of the county? Are you seeing a lot of flooding already? What are you seeing in those areas?
We are starting to see some flooding in areas that were prone to flooding from Hurricane Ian. And as we mentioned a day or two ago, we wanted to remind everybody that's been flooded from Hurricane Ian. You can expect that you're going to probably be flooded from this storm as well. We're starting to see it, as you mentioned, in other areas already. So again, all the more reason that we need residents to stay alert.
News. I had a similar question to that. I was just hoping that if you could expand on where exactly you think the county is going to get the worst weather, where the worst flooding is going to be, that kind of thing.
I'll pass that to Jim as far as flooding. I think it's going to be pretty much widespread, but unless there's specific pockets.
Yes, thank you. We still have a lot of weather to go tonight and through the day tomorrow. We did have a conference call with all of our city managers at 1 o'clock today. And really, there was some minor flooding taking place in areas that we've seen flooding in the past, but nowhere near anything that we saw with Ian. However, we've had 1 to 2 inches yesterday. We anticipate, of course, additional rain today, through tonight, through tomorrow, until tomorrow night. We may even have, again, some passing rain showers on Friday. So right now, the Midtown area in Daytona, New Smyrna Beach, even along the St. Johns River, at Stone Island, up around the Astor area. So all those are flood-prone areas that have been flooding, and even along the St. Johns just continue to have a lot of high water along those areas. But again, we're constantly speaking with our city managers. We have another call with them tomorrow at 1. And of course, if any serious conditions, they notify us immediately in the Emergency Operations Center. Of course, any critical life-threatening situations go to 911. But then for us to be able to keep up with the situations around the county, that's where we do a brief out every hour in the Emergency Operations Center, in the ops room, with conditions that those municipalities are facing. So far, we've been pretty good. But again, we will continue to monitor those conditions as we go forward.
Collapsed.
It was at the Dunlawton ramp. If you go straight down Dunlawton to the beach ramp, it's right there on the left, and it had a lot of washout underneath, and of course with the additional weather, that it's just kind of hanging down there.
And do you know of any specific Big structures that have already started collapsing? I mean, I've heard of like a wall coming down here and there.
Some of the walls along the barrier island have been breached, and there's actually water going over the walls that again is washing out some of the sand. So we did have Jim Cantori in town earlier today, so that kind of tells you that they were kind of concerned about activities here in Volusia County, but now he's down in Vero Beach, so maybe that's a good sign for Volusia County.
Question more for the sheriff. I was just curious about what the protocol is once the curfew starts. Are people still going to be able to access, if they call 911 overnight, if there's an emergency, are you guys still going to be able to get to them, or what are you telling people?
Yeah, we have a heavy contingency up on the peninsula. The sheriff's office has a footprint inside of the Ocean Center. We have rescue vehicles there. I have deputies assigned there, and we are married with all of the departments up there. So if there's a 911 call or something, we're going to be up there all along. Again, the concern's going to be, should a structure collapse? I think that's what we're all, we have a 3 o'clock conference call with all the other chiefs to discuss how would that response look like. Would we have to lock the beach side down? Could residents not get back in? There's a lot of unanswered questions yet as to what this storm would bring. We pray to God nothing happens, but again, we took a shot from Ian, and we really have not had time to recover from what occurred. And now here on the heels, we have Nicole, and who knows what can happen. And if you've been up there, I think every time I ride the peninsula, I see more and more damage that I didn't see before. And this was prior to the storm, more and more effects from Ian. And of course, we're worried about, as Jim talked about, Stone Island with the flooding that they're going to see, Lake Harney. Those things are going to flood a day or two after the storm. That's a whole other response that we have to put into place.
What a mandatory evacuation means, what the details are of that. I mean, is there some kind of penalty if you don't leave, and that applies to the cities too?
No. I want to stress this. People think that you put a curfew in place because they can, or you say mandatory evacuation because they can. There's a room full of experts over there that have thousands of years of expertise in dealing with the storm. And when they see these things, they put a mandatory evacuation in, telling you, hey, things could get really, really bad and you might not get off the peninsula. Why put yourself and your family in danger? Drive 50 miles inland for a day and then come back. We put the curfew in place. The curfew is there to protect everybody. Let first responders do their jobs. Keep the unwanted traffic off the street. We don't want to have to go out and rescue people because they were stupid. You want to have to go out and commit rescues because these people really need your help. That's the purpose behind that. And the county engineers and the folks that are going to speak, I mean, they're the best of the best. When you listen to what they're saying, they're not speaking just to speak. They're talking out of experience and passion to keep us safe, and that's what's important. Kevin?
Clarification with the beach safety. You said you lost a person during Hurricane Ian. Was that before the storm actually got here and they were out like around this time looking at the surf and they got sucked in?
That was during the middle of the storm. We had people leave their hotel. They were curious what the ocean looked like, and the woman did get too close to the water and got pulled out. So it was during the middle of the storm.
I mean, we've seen people out there, and I know you kind of touched on this, but you're telling people even right now, before the storm's here, that's really dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's not safe. We are flying the double red flag. Any water activity is prohibited. We do not want people on the beach, period, because of that incident, and that can happen very easily with the water and the conditions the way they are right now, and also all the structures on the beach are compromised.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Sheriff. And just to go a little more detail on the flooding, the question from Wesh 2, we have Ben Bartlett. He's our Director of Public Works. He can talk a little bit more in general about those areas that are more prone to flooding. Ben?
Good afternoon, Ben Bartlett, Public Works Director. What we're looking at on the east side of the county is any of the tributaries that are tidally influenced, Tomoka River, Spruce Creek, a lot of the canals, Nova Canal, things like that. With these high tides, the water can't get out. Most of our drainage collection systems, the counties, the cities, flow into these tributaries. It's essentially like turning the water on in your bathtub and plugging up the drain. So significant amounts of rain combined with the tidal events will cause flooding in and around those tributaries, which is what we saw during Hurricane Ian. On the west side of the county, we've got the St. Johns River, which, as the sheriff said, we anticipate it, possibly rising a day or two after the storm from the rain. We've got a series of closed basins, which are essentially bowls that don't have outfalls, that if we get significant amount of rain, those areas will flood as well. So, what we're asking folks is be smart. If you had flooding during Ian, if you saw flooding near you during Ian, there's a decent chance that you're probably going to have some flooding to deal with in this particular storm.
Thanks, Ben. Any other questions? All right, so just in closing, I think the biggest thing that we want to emphasize today is don't focus on the cone. This storm is huge, and we're already feeling the impacts, and the peak of the storm has yet to even arrive. So the message to our residents is you've got maybe a couple hours to get into an alternate shelter right now if that's what your need is. If not, we just want you to hunker down, shelter in place, continue to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or you can call the Citizens Information Center. Our Emergency Operations Center is at a level 1 activation, which means we have a number of what we call ESF, emergency support functions here. There's over 20 of them. So collectively, there's close to 200 people here, all working in concert with each other to make sure that we're informing you and making sure that we are prepared for any response. But with that, we want you to please stay alert, take care, stay safe, and help your neighbors. Thank you.